This amendment would instruct our Rules Committee to come up with an elections bill. It's my version of the Save America Act, but you can call it what you want. It would ask the Rules Committee to do two things. Require that in federal elections, you have to be an American citizen to vote, and provide for the provisions to enforce that. Number two, it would require that in federal elections, you have to prove you are who you say you are in order to vote. And it would provide provisions to enforce that. Number three, it further instructs the Rules Committee that we're going to go back to having an election day and not an election month. And it instructs the Rules Committee to provide the provisions to enforce that. Now, Madam President, I did not just pull this bill yesterday out of my rectum, though I will concede sometimes I do my best thinking there. I have been talking about this bill for a month, so it should come as no surprise. Now, some say it can't be done under the Budget Act and under the Byrd Rule and reconciliation. And you know what? They may be right. But you know what else? They can't predict the future. They're not clairvoyant. They have to wait on the future like the rest of us. I hope you won't vote against this bill just because President Trump has talked about it, this amendment rather. If you think this is just a Republican issue, then you're not revolving in the same direction as planet Earth. There are plenty of Democrats and plenty of independents that are worried about the integrity of our elections. And this would allow the Rules Committee to try to resolve some of their concerns. I trust the Rules Committee. There's not a dummy on there. There are plenty of Republicans and plenty of Democrats. There are a lot of smart lawyers in the United States Senate. But they're not the only smart lawyers in America. And in fact, believe it or not, there's some lawyers not in the Senate who are smarter than we are. And I trust the Rules Committee to go find them and try to craft a bill to fit within reconciliation, working with our esteemed parliamentarian. Last 2 points. If this amendment passes, and I hope it will, the Rules Committee is going to have to saddle up and ride. I'm asking them to do it within weeks, days if possible. That's probably too ambitious. If they have to work weekends, I'll stay here with them. Finally, do what you think is right. Don't vote against this just because President Trump has talked about it. Follow your heart. Take your brain with you. I respect everybody in this body. Everybody. If you vote against this bill, I'm not going to say a word. And I'm sure as hell not going to go on social media and call you an ignorant slut. That's not the way I roll, unless I'm pushed too far. So, what else am I supposed to say, Tony? I yield back.
Senator from California.
Colleagues, with all the serious issues facing this country, including but not limited to the challenges that so many working families are struggling with, can't believe we're back here debating a partisan attempt to rush through what I refer to as a solution in search of a problem. As we all know, in particular the voters of Virginia will remind us, voting is already underway this election year. And instead of working to keep our elections safe and secure by making it more accessible for eligible Americans to cast their ballot in our elections, we have back before us a measure that would make it harder for eligible citizens to register to vote, to stay registered to vote, to cast their ballots, make it tougher for elections administrators and volunteers to administer our democracy, as is so fundamental to our country. We've already gone down this road for several weeks and weeks and weeks now as we've debated the so-called Save America Act. But I think, despite how you felt about the Save America Act, which has certainly not passed the Senate, even my Republican colleagues would see the measure suggested by our colleague from Louisiana as even more extreme version. I would begin by saying we already know you have to be a citizen to vote in our elections. That's nothing new. That's already existing law. And despite the president's claims, there's zero evidence of massive voter fraud across the country, which is the premise of these proposals. So not only is it a solution in search of a problem, to paraphrase a wise man, this measure is all foam and no beer. This amendment seeks to eliminate, or at a minimum restrict, early voting opportunities which 47 states in the country offer for eligible citizens. 47 states. Why would we want to take away opportunities for citizens to participate in our democracy? I don't know. This proposal also suggests that all ballots be counted within 36 hours of the election. That may sound good and may be very doable in states with smaller populations and smaller numbers of registered voters, but in the larger states, yeah, it takes more time to count more ballots. And I know we can all agree that we want to do it securely to maintain election integrity. Things like ensuring that if a ballot comes in on election day, that voter hasn't already voted by mail. It takes a minute to cross-reference those records. Or a ballot that is received on time by mail, that you conduct a signature verification to help confirm that the person submitting that ballot is indeed the voter. You need more than 36 hours when you have more than 20 million voters like we have in my home state of California. So what is this proposed amendment really about? It's about holding on to power because the president knows that his agenda has failed and is not just extremely unpopular, but has done damage to families across the country. Just look at his most recent executive order seeking to ban vote by mail, changes to the rules when the primary season is already underway, but the language would have these changes go into immediate effect. Just adding to the rising costs, just adding to the rising chaos, just adding to the rising corruption, and it's unfortunate that elections administration has been turned into a partisan issue. I actually asked our colleagues to protect the early voters, not just in my state, but in yours. Protect vote-by-mail opportunities, not just in my state, but in yours. Let's protect women who are married and change their name and their right to vote, not just in my state, but in yours. Colleagues, I urge a no vote on Amendment 5414. And furthermore, Madam President, I raise a point of order that the pending amendment is not germane and therefore violates Section 305B2 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974.
From Louisiana.
Madam President, we'll never know till we try. Pursuant to Section 904, with respect to my colleague, I move to waive and ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsor-Brooks. Mr. Armstrong. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks. Thune. Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt-Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin. Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin. Ms. Ernst. Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Ms. Murkowski, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Armstrong, Banks, Barrasso, Blackburn, Bozeman, Budd, Cassidy, Cornyn, Cotton, Kramer, Crapo, Curtis, Daines, Graham, Husted, Hyde-Smith, Johnson, Kennedy, Langford, Lee, Lummis, Marshall, McCormick, Moody, Moran, Marino, Paul, Risch, Schmidt, Scott of Florida, Scott of South Carolina, Sheehy, Thune, Tuberville, and Wicker. Mr. Young, aye. Mr. Sullivan, aye. Senators voting in the negative: Alsobrooks, Baldwin, Bennett, Blumenthal, Booker, Cantwell, Coons, Duckworth, Durbin, Fetterman, Gallego, Gillibrand, Hassan, Heinrich, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Kane, Kelly, Kim, King, Klobuchar, Lujan, Markey, Merkley, Murray, Ossoff, Padilla, Peters, Reed, Rosen, Sanders, Schatz, Schiff, Schumer, Shaheen, Slotkin, Smith, Tillis, Van Hollen, Warnock, Welch, Whitehouse, and Wyden. Ms. Ernst, aye. Ms. Cortez Masto, no. Mrs. Fisher, aye. Mrs. Capito, aye. Mr. Hoven, aye. Ms. Warren, no. Mr. Rounds, aye. Mrs. Britt, aye. Ms. Blunt Rochester, no. Mr. Murphy, no. Ms. Murkowski, no. Ms. Collins, no. Mr. Hawley, aye. Mr. Haggerty, aye. Mr. Cruz, aye. Mr. Ricketts, aye. Mr. Justice. Mr. Justice, aye.
On this vote, the yeas are 48, the nays are 50. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative, the motion is not agreed to. The point of order is sustained and the amendment fails.
Madam President.
Majority Whip.
Madam President, I ask unanimous consent the following amendments be the next amendments in order. Holly 4794, Markey 5001, Paul 5378, Merkley 5235, Kane 5282.
Is there objection? Without objection. Senator from Missouri.
Madam President, I call up my amendment number 4794 and ask that it be reported by number.
The clerk will report by number.
The senator from Missouri, Mr. Hawley, proposes amendment number 4794.
Senate will come to order. Senator from Missouri.
Madam President, this amendment poses a simple and direct question. Should we use federal tax dollars to pay for transgender surgeries and treatments for minor children? More specifically, should we divert money from Medicaid, a program that is dedicated to the most needy among us, and use it instead to pay for risky, dangerous, irreversible transgender drugs and surgeries for minor children? Because, Madam President, that's what's been happening. For years, outfits like Planned Parenthood have gotten billions of dollars from Medicaid and Medicare, billions of dollars taken from the elderly, from the poor, from the needy, paid out to them, which they can then use for transgender surgeries, treatments, drugs for minor children. They proudly advertise it on their websites. One recent study found that in 3 years alone, Planned Parenthood got $1.5 billion from Medicaid and Medicare, money to be used on these risky surgeries and procedures for our children. This is wrong, Madam Chairman. This is a terrible misuse of federal funds, and we should put a stop to it today. I ask for a yes vote.
Madam President.
Senator from Oregon.
Madam President, it has been a year since Republicans gutted Medicaid funding for Planned Parenthood clinics. For many women, Planned Parenthood is their only source of primary care and prevention, like cancer screenings and STI testing. 23 Planned Parenthood clinics have closed, and 75% of the clinics that shuttered their doors were in rural or underserved areas. The number of breast exam visits fell by 25%. Fewer women are getting essential preventive care, heightening their risk of cancer. All of this life-saving care is on the chopping block if this amendment passes. This amendment is just Republicans' latest attempt to strip women of the health care they need and depend on so that they can go score some political points. I urge my colleagues to oppose the amendment. I strongly oppose it. And Madam President, I raise a point of order that the pending amendment is not germane and therefore violates Section 305B2 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974.
Madam President.
Senator from Missouri.
Under no circumstance should Medicaid money dedicated to the poor and the needy be used for transgender surgeries and treatments for minor children. It is a moral outrage. This body has a duty to stand against it. Pursuant to Section 904, I move to waive, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there sufficient second? There appears to be. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks. Mr. Armstrong. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hagenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lemus, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Mr. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young, Senators voting in the affirmative: Armstrong, Barrasso, Bozeman, Britt, Cornyn, Cotton, Kramer, Crapo, Cruz, Curtis, Daines, Graham, Haggerty, Hawley, Hoven, Husted, Heidsmith, Kennedy, Langford, Marshall, McConnell, Moody, Moran, Marino, Paul, Rounds, Scott of Florida, Scott of South Carolina, Sheehy, Sullivan, Tillis, and Young. Mr. Banks, aye. Senators voting in the negative: Also Brooks, Baldwin, Bennett, Blunt Rochester, Cortez Masto, Durbin, Fetterman, Gallego, Gillibrand, Hassan, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Kane, Kelly, Kim, King, Lujan, Markey, Merkley, Murkowski, Murphy, Murray, Ossoff, Padilla, Reed, Rosen, Sanders, Welch, and Wyden. Mr. Schatz, no. Mr. Tuberville, aye. Ms. Cantwell, no. Mr. Schmidt, aye. Mr. McCormick, aye. Mr. Johnson, Aye. Mr. Budd? Mr. Budd? Aye. Mr. Ricketts? Mr. Ricketts? Aye. Mrs. Shaheen? Mrs. Shaheen? No. Mr. Lee? Mr. Lee? Aye. Mr. Van Hollen? Mr. Van Hollen? No. Mr. Schumer? Mr. Schumer? No. Mr. Risch? Mr. Risch? Aye. Ms. Ernst? Ms. Ernst? Aye. Mr. Whitehouse? Mr. Whitehouse? No. Ms. Lummis? Ms. Lummis? Aye. Mr. Coons? Mr. Coons? No. Miss Lotkin? Miss Lotkin? No. Mrs. Fisher? Mrs. Fisher? No. Mr. Blumenthal? Mr. Blumenthal? No. Mr. Wicker? Mr. Wicker? Aye. Mr. Thune? Mr. Thune? Aye. Mrs. Blackburn? Mrs. Blackburn? Aye. Ms. Smith? Ms. Smith? No. Mr. Schiff? Mr. Schiff? No. Ms. Warren? Ms. Warren? No. Mrs. Capito? Mrs. Capito? Aye. Ms. Klobuchar? Ms. Klobuchar? No. Mr. Cassidy? Mr. Cassidy? Aye. Mr. Booker? Mr. Booker? No. Ms. Collins? Ms. Collins? No. Mr. Heinrich? Mr. Heinrich? No. Mr. Peters? Mr. Peters? No. Mr. Justice? Mr. Justice? Aye. Ms. Duckworth? Ms. Duckworth? No. Mr. Warnock. Mr. Warnock, no. Mrs. Fisher. Mrs. Fisher, aye.
On this vote, the yeas are 50, the nays are 48. 3/5 of the Senate is duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to. The point of order is sustained and the amendment falls. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, we've got 4 more amendments in this tranche that we're dealing with right now, but if we could start to compress these time for votes even more. We are still running close to 20 minutes, and it's a 10-minute vote, so let's try and do it in 10 minutes.
Senator from Massachusetts.
I call up my amendment 5001 and ask that it be reported by number.
Clerk will report by number.
Senator from Massachusetts, Mr. Markey, proposes amendment number 5001.
Mr. President, since Donald Trump took office, electricity prices have risen by as much as 13%, 3 times faster than inflation. Families are already falling into debt, and it is only getting worse. Utilities requested a record $31 billion in rate increases in 2025. That's twice as high as the year before. Republican cuts to American energy programs stoked this fire of a crisis. The Republican big, ugly bill is expected, this is unbelievable, to kill 790,000 megawatts of new, clean electricity over the next decade. It has already canceled or stalled 28,000 megawatts from 365 energy projects. And as we produce less and less new electricity, the remaining electricity becomes more and more expensive for families all across this country. Instead of providing a blank check for ICE, we should be providing relief on electricity bills for American families, and that's what my amendment does. It says that if Congress is going to pass this budget, then the budget must result in lower electricity bills for all American families.
Okay, who's next?
I urge my colleagues to support my
Senator of Utah.
Mr. President, we need dispatchable power. Something happens when the government subsidizes and otherwise encourages non-dispatchable power, and it punishes and deters dispatchable power. The price of dispatchable power and power generally goes up. It's exactly what happened following the passage of the Democrat bill with the Orwellian name of the Inflation Reduction Act. The same year that was passed in 2022, that bill which encouraged and fostered non-dispatchable power and discouraged dispatchable power, the cost of electric power went up. It went way up. It went up more than any year since the Energy Information Administration began tracking this data in 1984. That's what happens, and that's what they want to do more of. We need less of that. We're trying to turn it down. They're trying to accelerate into the turn in a way that would make energy more expensive. So, Mr. President, under the provisions of Section 305B of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, I raise a point of order that the amendment offered is not germane.
Senator Massachusetts.
Mr. President, pursuant to Section 904 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, I move to waive the point of order, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks. Mr. Armstrong, Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt-Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young, Senators voting in the affirmative: Also Brooks, Baldwin, Bennett, Blumenthal, Blunt Rochester, Booker, Cantwell, Collins, Cortez Masto, Duckworth, Fetterman, Gillibrand, Hassan, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Kane, Kelly, Kim, Klobuchar, Lujan, Merkley, Murray, Ossoff, Padilla, Reed, Rosen, Sanders, Schatz, Schiff, Shaheen, Slotkin, Smith, Sullivan, Van Hollen, Warnock, Warren, Welch, Whitehouse, and Wyden. Senators voting in the negative: Armstrong, Banks, Barrasso, Bozeman, Britt, Cassidy, Cornyn, Cotton, Kramer, Crapo, Curtis, Daines, Ernst, Fisher, Graham, Hawley, Hoven, Husted, Hyde-Smith, Johnson, Justice, Langford, Lee, Marshall, Moody, Moran, Marino, Paul, Risch, Rounds, Schmidt, Scott of Florida, Scott of South Carolina, Sheehy, Thune, Tillis, Tuberville, Wicker, and Young. Mr. Peters, aye. Mr. Gallego, aye. Mr. Heinrich, aye. Ms. Murkowski, No. Mr. King, aye. Mr. Markey, aye. Mr. Murphy, aye. Mr. Ricketts, no. Mr. Budd, no. Mrs. Capito, no. Mr. Cruz, no. Mr. McCormick, no. Mr. Schumer, aye. Ms. Lummis, no. Mr. McConnell, no. Mrs. Blackburn, no. Mr. Coons, aye. Mr. Durbin, aye. Mr. Haggerty, no. Mr. Kennedy, no.
On this vote, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 50. 3/5 of the Senate is duly chosen. Swearing not, have voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to. The point of order is sustained and the amendment falls. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Senator of Kentucky.
I call up my amendment 5378 and ask that it be reported by number.
Clerk will report.
Senator from Kentucky, Mr. Paul, proposes amendment number 5378.
Congress ought to fund border security, but we should be
Order, please.
Congress ought to fund border security, but we should be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars and fully pay for the $70 billion to secure our borders. My amendment would eliminate over $5 billion in refugee welfare, cut over $45 billion in foreign aid, and slash National Science Foundation by nearly $4 billion, as well as reducing the Department of Education by 16%. This is consistent with the Trump administration's goal of returning educational authority to the states. These reductions would be made in just one fiscal year and would fully pay for border security. With $2 trillion deficits and a $39 trillion debt, we must stop handouts to refugees, countries that hate the United States, and federal agencies that study such things as frog mating calls in Panama. Let's pay for the border security. I ask for a yes vote.
Mr. President,
Senator Morgan.
my colleague from Kentucky is right that this bill is unfunded, that it adds to the deficit and adds to the debt. And maybe the best way to address that is not to send $70 billion to two agencies that are sitting on top of $103 billion right now of unobligated funds. They couldn't even get started spending that massive amount from H.R. 1 last year. But blindly slashing away at scientific research when China's producing 4 times the patents that we're producing each year, blindly slashing away at Pell Grants, which under this proposal would be equal to 2 million individual students losing their Pell Grants. That is the type of detailed work that needs to be done in the authorizing committees and in the appropriations committees. This slash and hack strategy is way off base.
Senator of Kentucky.
There's nothing in the bill that cuts Pell Grants.
Mr. President, the bill cuts $16 billion from education. Doesn't say specifically where, but that is a good example of the type of thing that could happen.
Questions on the amendment?
Ayes.
Is there a sufficient second? Appears to be. Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks. Mr. Armstrong. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Blackburn. Mr. Blumenthal. Ms. Blunt Rochester.
Mr. Booker. Mr. Bozeman. Mrs. Britt. Mr. Budd. Ms. Cantwell. Mrs. Capito. Mr. Cassidy. Ms. Collins. Mr. Coons. Mr. Cornyn. Ms. Cortez Masto. Mr. Cotton. Mr. Kramer. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Curtis. Mr. Daines. Ms. Duckworth. Mr. Durbin. Ms. Ernst. Mr. Fetterman. Mrs. Fisher. Mr. Gallego. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Haggerty. Ms. Hassan. Mr. Hawley. Mr. Heinrich. Mr. Hickenlooper. Mr. Rono. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Husted. Mrs. Hyde-Smith. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kim, Mr. King. Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford. Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan. Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall. Mr. McConnell. Mr. McCormick. Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran. Mr. Moreno, Ms. Murkowski. Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy,
Thank you.
Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Banks, Blackburn, Britt, Budd, Cruz, Curtis, Haggerty, Hyde-Smith, Johnson, Justice, Kennedy, Lee, Lummis, McCormick, Moody, Moreno, Paul, Schmidt, Sheehy, Sullivan. Senators voting in the negative: Also Brooks, Armstrong, Baldwin, Bennett, Blumenthal, Blunt Rochester, Bozeman, Cantwell, Capito, Cassidy, Collins, Coons, Cortez Masto, Cotton, Crapo, Daines, Duckworth, Durbin, Ernst, Betterman, Fisher, Gillibrand, Graham, Hassan, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Husted, Kane, Kelly, Kim, King, Klobuchar, Lankford, Lujan, Markey, Marshall, McConnell, Merkley, Moran, Murkowski, Murphy, Murray, Ossoff, Padilla, Reed, Ricketts, Rosen, Rounds, Sanders, Schatz, Schiff, Schumer, Shaheen, Slotkin, Tillis, Tuberville, Van Hollen, Warnock, Warren, Welch, Whitehouse, Wicker, Wyden, Young. Mr. Booker, no. Mr. Hawley, aye. Mr. Cornyn, no. Mr. Justice, No. Mr. Barrasso, aye. Mr. Thune, no. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, no. Mr. Risch, no. Ms. Smith, no. Mr. Peters, no. Mr. Heinrich, no. Mr. Gallego, no. Mr. Kramer, aye. Mr. Hoven, aye. Mr. Scott of Florida, aye.
Yeas are 24, nays are 74. Amendment is not agreed to. Majority Leader.
I think we now have a finite.
Order, Mr. President.
Order.
Finite list of 5 amendments. So if we could just have everybody stay in their seats, and we'll try and knock them off quickly and do legit 10-minute votes.
Mr. President,
Senator of Oregon.
I call up my amendment 5235 and ask it be reported by number.
Clerk will report by number.
Senator from Oregon, Mr. Merkley, proposes an amendment numbered 5235.
Mr. President,
Senator of Oregon.
in the State of the Union, President Trump told the story of Rachel Wiggins, who had lost out to private equity 20 times in trying to buy a house. After all, it's very hard to compete against an all-cash offer, fast closing, no inspection. The President said, I'm asking Congress to act because we want homes for people, not corporations. And the Senate did act. And they included in a bill the road to housing an element, and my compliments to my colleague from Ohio and my colleague from Massachusetts who worked together to get the element into that house, into that bill. But right now, down the hall, private equity is lobbying like hell to make sure that element never passes. We have an opportunity tonight to send a message that we agree with the President, that we have a challenge in home ownership because home ownership is dying, and one of the factors is private equity buying up the homes.
Senator's time has expired.
So thank you, Mr. President. Let's pass this amendment. Restore home ownership. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Senator of Ohio.
First of all, I'm very thankful that the senator from Oregon is now completely on the side of President Trump in making certain that we restore home ownership for Americans. I didn't think I'd see this moment, but I'm very excited that it happened either way. I obviously urge my colleagues to oppose this amendment because we've already passed it. We've already solved this problem. In fact, congratulations to all of us, 89 to 10. We banned institutional ownership of single-family homes. I think that's fantastic. By the way, in January, we saw a 7% decline in the prices of homes in just San Diego because another factor that we're dealing with tonight is that, unfortunately, the Democrats allowed tens of millions of people to come into this country illegally that drove up housing prices. So what this bill is about is actually enforcing our immigration laws, making certain that we have border protection, and making certain that we remove the people from this country that were not supposed to be here in the first place, and that will also continue to drive down housing prices. But again, I agree with the senator from Oregon. This is about lowering the price of housing. We've already done it. I urge all my colleagues to vote against this amendment.
As for the yeas and nays.
Is there a second? Appears to be. Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks, Mr. Armstrong, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, thanks. Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand. Thank you. Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Ms. Murkowski. Thank you. Hey, Brad. Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, thank you, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young, Senators voting in the affirmative: Alsobrooks, Baldwin, Bennett, Blumenthal, Blunt Rochester, Booker, Cantwell, Coons, Duckworth, Durbin, Hassan, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Kane, Kelly, Kim, King, Klobuchar, Lujan, Merkley, Murphy, Murray, Ossoff, Padilla, Reed, Rosen, Sanders, Schiff, Schumer, Shaheen, Slotkin, Smith, Van Hollen, Warnock, Warren, Welch, Whitehouse, and Wyden. Mr. Heinrich, aye. Mr. Peters, aye. Mr. Gallego, aye. Mr. Moran. Mr. Cotton. Senators voting in the negative: Armstrong, Banks, Barrasso, Blackburn, Bozeman, Capito, Cassidy, Collins, Cornyn, Cotton, Kramer, Crapo, Curtis, Daines, Ernst, Fisher, Graham, Hoven, Husted, Hyde-Smith, Johnson, Justice, Kennedy, Lankford, Lee, Lummis, Marshall, McConnell, McCormick, Moody, Moran, Marino, Murkowski, Paul, Risch, Rounds, Scott of Florida, Scott of South Carolina, Sheehy, Thune, Tillis, Tuberville, and Young. Mr. Budd, no. Mr. Wicker, no. Mrs. Gillibrand, aye. Mr. Fetterman, aye. Thank you. Mr. Haggerty, no. Mrs. Britt, no. Mr. Schatz, aye. Mr. Schmidt, no. Mr. Markey, aye. Mr. Ricketts, no. Mr. Sullivan, no. Mr. Cruz, no. Mr. Hawley, no. Ms. Cortez Masto, aye.
The roll call vote, 46 yeas, 52 nays, and the amendment is not approved. Senator from Ohio.
Mr. President, on roll call vote 99, I voted no. My intention was to vote yes. Therefore, I ask for unanimous consent to be permitted to change my vote since it will not affect the outcome.
Without objection. The senator from Vermont.
Mr. President, I call up my amendment 5159 and ask that it be reported by number.
The clerk will report by number.
Senator from Vermont, Mr. Sanders, proposes an amendment numbered 5159.
Mr. President, I ask that order. We have order.
Order in the chamber, please.
Mr. President, the American people pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. And the result, 1 out of 4 Americans cannot afford the prescriptions that their doctors write, and thousands die every year as a result, and many become sicker than they should. During his State of the Union address, President Trump asked us to codify a most favored nation drug policy to ensure that the American people pay no more for prescription drugs than people in other countries. Well, Mr. President, the amendment that I'm offering now calls on Congress to do exactly that. This amendment is very simple. It would prevent pharmaceutical companies from charging more for prescription drugs in the United States than they do in Canada, the UK, Germany, France, and Japan. Researchers at Yale University estimate that this bill would cut the cost of prescription drugs in America by half, 50% reduction, so we're not paying the highest prices in the world.
Time has expired.
Let's stand with the American people, not with the pharmaceutical industry. Please vote yes.
Mr. President.
The senator from Idaho.
Mr. President, the focused budget blueprint before us today is necessary to quickly fund ICE, Border Patrol agents, and support staff. Since the Finance Committee is not instructed in this budget resolution, this is not a tax, trade, or health care reform bill. The budget makes that clear. Adding a deficit-neutral reserve fund in the finance jurisdiction is non-germane, as it expands the scope of the budget resolution. Therefore, under the provisions of Section 305B2 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, I raise a point of order that the amendment offered is not germane.
The senator from Vermont.
Pursuant to Section 904 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, I move to waive the point of order, and I ask for the ayes and nays.
Is there a sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks, Mr. Armstrong, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt-Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Brett, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto. Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman, Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Mr. Rono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Moreno, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Also Brooks, Baldwin, Bennett, Blumenthal, Blunt Rochester, Booker, Cantwell, Collins, Coons, Duckworth, Durbin, Fetterman, Gillibrand, Hassan, Hawley, Heinrich, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Kane, Kelly, Kim, King, Lujan, Markey, Merkley, Murray, Ossoff, Padilla, Peters, Reed, Rosen, Sanders, Schatz, Smith, Warnock, Warren, Welch, Wyden. Mr. Schiff, aye. Mr. Whitehouse, aye. Ms. Slotkin, aye. Mr. Murphy, aye. Senators voting in the negative: Armstrong, Banks, Barrasso, Bozeman, Cassidy, Cornyn, Cotton, Kramer, Crapo, Cruz, Curtis, Daines, Ernst, Fisher, Graham, Hoven, Hyde-Smith, Johnson, Justice, Kennedy, Langford, Lee, Lummis, Marshall, McConnell, McCormick, Moody, Moran, Murkowski, Paul, Risch, Rounds, Schmidt, Scott of Florida, Sheehy, Tillis, Tuberville, Wicker. Mrs. Shaheen, aye. Mrs. Blackburn, no. Mr. Schumer, aye. Mr. Van Hollen, aye. Mr. Moreno, no. Mr. Haggerty, no. Mrs. Britt, no. Mr. Ricketts, no. Mr. Budd, no. Mrs. Capito, no. Ms. Cortez Masto, aye. Mr. Sullivan, aye. Mr. Husted, no. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, no. Ms. Klobuchar, aye. Mr. Young, no. Mr. Thune, No. Mr. Gallego? Aye.
Let's vote. The yeas are 49, the nays are 49. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to. The point of order is sustained and the amendment fails.
Mr. President.
The senator from California.
Mr. President, I call up my amendment number 4855 and ask that it be reported by number.
The clerk will report by number.
Senator from California, Mr. Padilla, proposes an amendment numbered 4855.
Mr. President, my amendment would create a point of order against reconciliation bills that would provide funding for federal agencies that still have unobligated funds left over from previous reconciliation bills. Now, as I describe this amendment, many people are thinking, well, that's pretty common sense. Why is this even necessary? Well, let me remind us that ICE and CBP still have a combined total of $103 billion in unspent funds from last year's big, anything but beautiful bill. You heard me right, $103 billion. Let that sink in. ICE is still sitting on $63.2 billion of its funding. That's 84% of the funding from that bill. CBP is sitting on $40 billion. That's 62% of funding from last year's bill. So what are we even doing here? There's $103 billion that's unspent. You're trying to give them another $140 billion. This doesn't make sense. So,
Senator from Wyoming.
Urge you to vote yes on Amendment 4855.
Republicans are committed to a safe and secure America. That's what this debate is about tonight. All night long, Democrats have ignored this very important issue. Democrats would rather protect illegal immigrant criminals than protect law-abiding American citizens. They want to defund ICE. They want to defund Border Patrol. They want to go back to the days of 10 million illegal immigrants flooding into our country. Criminals, drug dealers, gang members, all of it. Republicans are getting law enforcement and the resources they need to keep our communities safe. So, Mr. President, under the provisions of Section 305B(2) of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, I raise a point of order that the amendment offered is not germane.
Mr. President.
The senator from California.
Pursuant to Section 904 of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974, I move to waive the point of order, and I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there sufficient second? Appears to be. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Ossobrooks, Mr. Armstrong, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett. Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt-Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, I got him. I got him. Mr. Cornyn. Ms. Cortez Masto. I did. Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth. Mr. Durbin. Ms. Ernst. Mr. Fetterman. Mrs. Fisher, Mr. Gallego. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty. Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley. Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper. Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven. Mr. Husted. Mrs. Hyde-Smith. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice. Thank you. Mr. Kane. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar. Mr. Lankford. Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan. Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall. Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody. Mr. Moran. Mr. Marino, Ms. Murkowski. Mr. Murphy. Mrs. Murray. Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul. Mr. Peters. Mr. Reed. Mr. Ricketts. Mr. Risch. Ms. Rosen. Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz. Thank you. Mr. Schiff. Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina. Mrs. Shaheen. Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith. Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville. Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner. Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren. Mr. Welch. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Also Brooks, Baldwin, Bennett, Blunt Rochester, Booker, Cantwell, Coons, Cortez Masto, Duckworth, Durbin, Fetterman, Gallego, Hassan, Heinrich, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Kane, Kelly, Kim, King, Lujan, Markey, Merkley, Murray, Ossoff, Padilla, Peters, Reed, Rosen, Sanders, Schatz, Schiff, Schumer, Slotkin, Smith, Warnock, Warren, Whitehouse, and Wyden. Senators voting in the negative: Armstrong, Banks, Barrasso, Capito, Cassidy, Cornyn, Cotton, Kramer, Crapo, Curtis, Daines, Ernst, Fisher, Graham, Husted, Hyde-Smith, Johnson, Justice, Kennedy, Lankford, Lee, Lummis, Marshall, McConnell, McCormick, Moody, Moran, Marino, Paul, Rounds, Scott of Florida, Scott of South Carolina, Sheehy, Thune, Tillis, Tuberville, and Young. Mr. Hoven, no. Mrs. Shaheen, aye. Mr. Wicker, no. Ms. Klobuchar, aye. Mr. Blumenthal, aye. Mr. Bozeman, no. Ms. Murkowski, no. Mr. Schmidt, no. Mr. Van Hollen, aye. Mrs. Britt, no. Mr. Welch, aye. Mr. Murphy, aye. Mr. Ricketts, no. Mr. Hawley, no. Mr. Budd, no. Ms. Collins, no. Mrs. Gillibrand, aye. Mr. Cruz, no. Mr. Sullivan, no. Mr. Haggerty, no. Mr. Risch, no. Ms. Blackburn, no.